So I am Alexia. I am working in Germany since 12 years, and I used to live also in Berlin in 1989. So I brought a book that my father wrote about his life when he was a diplomat in East Germany, and recollecting his impressions and feelings when the wall was falling. So actually we arrived during the summer of '89, and it was a new position for my father, and we settled there with my brother. We were going around Berlin, East Berlin, West Berlin a bit freely, and we really enjoyed it. And then there was the start of a school year, and we were actually going to the school every day, crossing the wall to go to the französisches Gymnasium in West Berlin. So we were among the privileged people who could cross the wall without any hindrances because of the diplomatic status. And over time, basically, the situation developed in East Germany, and we got some information from my father which demonstrations we should go to and when things were happening, so that we could go there, make pictures, participate a bit. So it was a good time for us. It was very entertaining. Mm-hmm. Well, for us, basically, it didn't change that much. And actually, I was 16 at the time. I didn't really understand much of what was happening. But I remember during the night where the wall first fell, my father called me at home in the middle of the night and told me that I should really wake up and go to the wall and go observe what was going on there, because things were happening. And told me also to take my camera with me, and then during the night I was there in the middle of the people taking pictures of all those East Germans who were crossing the wall, going in the U-Bahn and chanting and being very happy. And so I made some good pictures there. That was what I liked to do at the time, taking pictures of people with those East German cameras, which were not too bad actually. They had some good lenses. They had Zeiss lenses, which actually gave good quality pictures. Well, it was a big change. For the first few months, we were the only people going through, and it was quite difficult, even for us. And there were lots of checks and everything, and it was quite funny to watch the border guards basically not knowing what to do of themselves when the wall fell. They didn't just realize, they just couldn't really handle it. They were really super confused. And actually, when I was crossing the wall in the first few days where it was open to everyone, and I was just crossing the wall showing my pass, they were looking at me like, well, yes, we are the old timers, we are the people who know the border as it was, and all those other people, I just don't understand what they are doing there. It was really, I think it was kind of a feeling. It was their private world which was broken. Their own little privileges, basically, as a person who guards the wall, prevents people from crossing, and then suddenly all the vulcum pecum, all the normal people could go through. They were there. I guess that was frustrating. Basically, it's kind of tradition when you're in the diplomatic service. You write your memoirs at the end, and he wrote a memoir about his different posts, and he wrote some remarks about the situation in Berlin, which was, from the French point of view, it was complicated because we had occupying forces in West Berlin, and the people who were the French, it was the French army basically, and they didn't like the French diplomats in East Berlin at all, because they suspected them of not, basically apparently between the army and the diplomatic service things are not always very cordial. And so And my father actually, used to be in the military himself, but really did not like it at all. So he also had some unfinished business with the French military. So actually, he recounts like basically the kind of conflicts that there were between the French in West Berlin and the French in East Berlin. And when the wall fell, actually the French military was quite upset because they could see that this was going to be the end of the occupation of part of Germany, and it was not so good for them because actually it was a source of a lot of privileges for them. They were better paid here. They had built up some really nice accommodations, and they were just enjoying it. They had lots of little privileges that the Germans, that they could make other people Germans benefit from. And that was a source of power also over them. And then when this disappeared, they were a little bit upset, and actually they developed some conspiracy theories about why the wall was falling. And they were telling my father, this is a trap, the Russians are making a trap, and they are just pretending to open the wall, and actually it was just crazy thoughts. And my father was trying to understand what was going on, so trying to get some contacts in East German society, mostly artists and opponents of the regime, and discussing also with the French capital, basically with people in Paris to know what to do about it. So whether the idea was more like to try to see if East Germany could subsist as an independent nation, so as not to have a reunified Germany, which would be too big and too powerful to contain in case of renewed war. Because you have to take into account that 1989 was just 44 years after the end of the Second World War. So, I think also, things change very quickly, right? You have got a regime, a democratic regime, and things can change in 10 years, and it can become a fascist regime or a communist regime or whatever. So yes, they were concerned, and there was a visit by Mitterrand right after the wall fell, and he was meeting quite a lot of people from the civil society in East Germany. And actually the West Germans were quite upset about this visit by Mitterrand, because they saw this as more like trying to foster self-organization among the East Germans, so that maybe a state could be built that will be independent from West Germany. But from what my father recounts, the West Germans had prepared their operations very well. So in the case the wall fell, so as to get reunification, and it was impossible to stop them, more or less. That was like, basically, he was a diplomat. This is things that you have to think about, and you have to defend the interest of your country and try to keep it safe. And yeah, basically the concern was strong Germany was a threat to the French and to peace.
And how was it for you to read the memoirs of your father? Like, do you mostly?
I read mostly the first part of the memoir, which is more about family, origin of the family, history of childhood of my father, things that I did not know already. All the things about his experience in different positions, I knew it already more or less, and he has got some good observations, but actually not things which I find particularly enlightening. So, but still, I reread the chapter on East Germany. It was a strange time also in my family, actually, because I was the only one who was left with my father, to live with my father. I was 16 at the time, so I was a bit difficult, and my mother did not want me to stay in Paris, where my mother was living, finishing some studies. that she was doing, and with other kids, because we are lots of kids. And so I was alone with my father. It was a bit of a strange time, because my father did not have time to actually take care of me, so I was more or less on my own. I mean, anyway, I couldn't spend that much time in West Berlin. I was just going in West Berlin to go to school with like the embassy car, and then back after school. So, and I was not part at all of the life in West Berlin, so I spent my time in East Berlin, and the life in East Berlin was, well, I mean, I did not have any idea that actually there was some cool stuff happening in West Berlin. And in East Berlin, I couldn't see anything cool happening. It was quite a relatively drab life. I mean, there were some good things. I liked the bread, actually. The bread was quite good. And I mean, I was used actually to living in Eastern Europe, because I spent also, I mean, before in Hungary a few years. So, and actually when you're, I mean, as diplomats, as foreigners, with quite a lot of money, you could go into some, I mean, you could have quite a good life in those countries. I mean, when we were in Hungary, for example, we were doing fencing and taking advantage of all the facilities for sport, which were really well developed. And so there were good, I mean, yeah, when you are part of a privileged group of people, actually, the poorer and the people around you are actually sometimes the nicer your life is. So it's a sad thing, but it's the case.
How long did you stay in East Berlin after the wall fell?
1 year and a half. So, I mean, basically I spent 2 years in Berlin. I arrived at 16, and then I left at 18 to go back to France to go to university. And then a very long time later, I was working in the UK, and I was looking for a position, and I found a position actually in Jena, which is in East Germany. And I was like, oh my God, I don't want to go back there, you know, because, I mean, I didn't have that good memories actually of East Germany. But actually, Jena was nice, and I met a lot of really cool people.